Welcome to Delahunty Sewing and Knitting Centre, and today we're going to do a review of the Janome 423S sewing machine. This is our own personal review and we're not sponsored by Janome in any shape or form. So we're going to go through the review now with you. Okay, so the machine comes with a hard cover. We take the hard cover off, pop that in there, and then you've got the machine here. You have the electrics and the foot control that comes with it, and then inside the tray here, just move that out of the way for you, you get the accessories that come with it. So you get a buttonhole. It's an automatic buttonhole, but we'll show you that in a minute, how to use that. And then whoops, in here, okay, so the accessories, you've got your buttonhole foot, little screwdriver, rolled hem foot, zip foot, 4 bobbins, pack of needles, seam ripper and some oil. When you unpack the machine, it comes with the A foot. I'll just show you it here. This is it here, the normal everyday A foot. If you can see it very well from now or not. And this little fitment here will make this foot become a stitch in the ditch foot, which we'll show you a bit later on. And I just clip those feet off. You can see on each feet it's got a little bar across the top there. Every one of those has got one. There's one on this one too. And that's the bit that you clip the feet on and off to, which we'll show you in a second. I'm just going to put it back on for now, and then we'll go through the rest of the machine. The machine itself, you've got the dials. I'll just turn it this way a bit there. So you've got dials on here for your selecting stitch. So you choose, when you turn the dial, to A, C, D, E, F. All those letters there, ones that you choose, will correspond with the stitches that you've got across the top there. So if you pick A, you're going to get straight stitch, and if you pick C, you'll start onto your zigzag, and so on. When you want to get to any of the stretch stitches, which has got quite a few of them, it's got 24 stitches in all. The stretch stitches, or the satin stitches they call them, that's that little SS button here. So you'd move your slider across to that orange there, SS, and then whenever you pick a stitch out from here and you select A, B, C for your stitches, you're then going to get all the ones that are in orange. Okay, so it's quite simple to use on that respect. I'll put it back to A to start straight stitch first. This slider here, we just briefly talked about it, how to access those stitches. This slider here also is your length control. So when you're not using the stretch stitches, you'd move this slider across to pick the length of your stitch, and it's usually longer stitch for thicker fabrics and a smaller stitch for finer fabrics generally. Okay, the average is about 2.5 for a cotton weight fabric, so I'll just set it on that so when we do start stitching I can show you how it works. Yeah, put on about 2.5 there. So the next slider that you've got down there below is the width control. So on this machine you're able to alter the width of the stitch, of every stitch that you've got there, across these top ones here. So any stitch, not just your zigzag. So if you wanted to do your blind hem stitch, for example, which is F, then you could alter the width of that as well as the length of the stitch. So you've got 2 separate controls, which is a lot easier to work with. Okay, it has an automatic buttonhole. It's even got it on there to show that it's got an automatic buttonhole, and we'll show you how to use that in a minute. It's an all metal bodied machine inside, and it's 7.4 kilograms weight, so it's not too badly weight, but it's going to give you a little bit of good support there when you're sewing at speed. Okay, so, and on the bottom, this one here is also your reverse button, so that will reverse your stitches to tie them off at the end, and we'll show you how to do that in a moment. On the top of the machine you've got these 2 here that you can put your bobbins onto as well, and then this wheel here is called the flywheel, and you turn that towards you to move the needle up and down. When you put your foot down on the sewing machine, that will actually turn on itself and go faster still to actually do the sewing. But when you're trying to work out where your needle threader goes, which we'll show you in a minute, you need to get it in highest position. You use this wheel to turn that towards you. So this spindle here is for putting your bobbin on when you want to wind the bobbin. I'll show you how to do that in a second, but your bobbin sits on there generally most times, and then you push this across to start winding your bobbin, and then put the foot down. When you're pushing that across, it will disengage the needle, so the needle won't go up and down when you're sewing. So it's a safety measure really, but it also then enables the bobbin to thread nicely from there, and I'll show you how to do that in a second. So yeah, on this side of the machine here, I've taken this tray off, and this accessory tray is quite nice because it swings out. So when it's actually on there on the machine, you can get in and out quite easily into your feet when you're working, which is quite nice to do. And then you take that off from there to get into your bobbin area. So you have a top and a bottom thread, so you have to obviously fill a bobbin in the bottom and then you thread at the top through your needle. I've dropped the little door down here to show you where the bobbin is. The bobbin is in a case, and this is the case here that you use this little lever here and you pull forward with. Okay, and you take it out. This one's already threaded, but we'll do a full thread in a moment to show you how it works. But yeah, that's your bobbin case, and your bobbin usually goes directly into the case like that, and there's a tension here. And the bottom thread has a tension as well as the top, so you're threading it through the little slot. I don't know how easy it is to show you on that, and then under and round there like that. And then that should hang like that, so you know it's in its tension. I think I'll just show you how to wind a bobbin first, and then we'll put it all in together. Then you'll know how that works. But just before we do that, I just wanted to show you the side of this machine here on the pressure side, because obviously we're talking about the machine at the minute, and I'm going to go on to the sewing in a minute. This side here, there's a dial, and basically it's a pressure foot pressure. I call it the squash basically, because when you put your foot down, you sandwich fabric between the two here. So you've got your feed dogs here, you're feeding your fabric through here and you push this down. Sometimes that can be a bit tight and it'll push the fabric all over the place, or it'll drag it too much. So to help with that, you turn this dial, and it's got numbers 1 to 7. Hold on, let me just check that. No, 1 to 3, sorry, get it right. And when you reduce the, turn it round, you can feel it releasing itself actually. Reduce the number. Then when you try to lift this foot up and down, it's very, very easy. If we put it back to normal, which is at the top here, it's quite tight. And that helps when you've got thick fabric and things like that going through it. So it's quite a useful thing to have on that. So they call it the pressure foot pressure. So you'd use that generally if you've got, say, some slippy fabrics. Sometimes if the pressure's too tight on fine silk, say, for example, or thinner fabrics, the feed dogs can actually make a mark on the bottom of the fabric. And equally, sometimes if you've got thicker fabrics like quilting and you've got a sandwich of a wadding and fabric between it, when you're feeding it through, sometimes the bottom feed will go through quicker than the top will, and then it just wrinkles all up. And by releasing that, it just helps you to ease it over. It's kind of a way of saving you buying a big walking foot for the time being. That's another story to talk about after, is walking feet. But it doesn't come with this machine. They can be quite an expensive bit of kit. So you're probably better off just trying to use that first and seeing how it works if you want to start off with your quilting. And then the last thing on this machine before we actually start sewing up and showing you how it works is there is a drop feed facility on this machine. Basically, the feed dogs on the bottom of this plate here, which normally come up and take your fabric through, if you want to do free motion embroidery, or sometimes you want to do a bit of darning and things like that, you want to be able to drop the feed dogs down. And some machines have a plate on top, but this one actually will let your feed dogs drop down. And there's a lever here just at the front, you can see it there, and you just pull it or push it that way. So when you've dropped the feed dogs down, you would change this foot to a darning foot. It doesn't come with this machine, but you would change the foot over to that. And all the feet that you do change, they're a category A for this machine. So because Janome have different categories, and it's category A for this machine. When you want to put the feed dogs back up, you just bring this lever towards you to this side of the machine, and it doesn't look like they've moved at all. Turn this flywheel towards you and you'll hear a click. There you go. And that's brought them back up ready to sew. And then you take your darning foot off if you've got it on, and you put your normal feet back on again. Okay, I think we're ready to maybe wind the bobbin and start sewing now and show you how it all works. So let's get a bobbin. Pacific bobbins for Janome. and they come with 4 of them anyway, but you can come to the shop and ask us for those if you need them. So you pop your bobbin onto here. We'll do the bobbin first and then we'll do the top thread. To wind the bobbin, you just put your thread onto one of these here, one of the spindles, and then you follow the guide. Now this is all for doing, this side is all for doing the actual top of the machine. It's this button here, or this knob here, that you use to do your bobbin with. There's a little tension, we talked about tension before, it's got to have a top and bottom tension. It's just in that spring there, and there's a little engraved dial on the top of here that shows you where to go. So you just pop it through from the front and come across like a figure of 8 almost, and then you go in to the back of the bobbin and wind it round a few times just to get some traction on it. Okay, and then you're going to move it across there. Ready to sew, we need to plug it in. So you're usually advised that safety measure is not to put the plug and things in until you've actually sort of threaded your needle and things as well. But we do need some electric to make this work. So we're going to pop this in just to wind your bobbin first. But they do recommend that you turn your machine off when you're actually threading your needles for safety. So the on-off button here is just here where you turn it on, and this will produce a light. Okay, but if you are going to use the light to thread your needle, then just don't put your foot on the actual foot pedal while you keep that away from you when you're sewing the needle. Anyway, let's do the bobbin first. So we've gone across here, we've gone round through the tension, wrapped it around and pushed it over. So then we're going to put our foot down. We're going to put our foot like that onto the, and you can see the speed that it can go at, so you can control the speed. And you can see how it's going up and down evenly. So it's got to go up and down evenly around there, giving it some tension. So this machine, you can control the speed by your foot pedal. This machine doesn't have a speed slider on it. Only computer ones really have that. But manual ones, you do it by pushing your foot down, and you decide how hard you put your foot down on that really. So you can, or you can press it down really fast. Okay? When you finish doing your bobbin, you push it back. That will re-engage your needle so that it'll move again, ready for sewing and threading up your needle. Take it off your bobbin and then cut it off or snap it off, whichever. And that's your bobbin threaded. Now this has got to go into the bobbin case. So it needs to be clockwise. So we've got it going round clockwise with this side of it, the piggy tail, I call that piggy tail basically, facing upways. So it's got to go into that, going clockwise. I hold on to it, otherwise it's just going to keep running through. But there's a little slot there that you put your thread into, and then you take it under the tension there and round, clip it under, and it's done like that, and it's holding it in place. Okay, and then to put it in, hold both the bobbin and the case together. There's a little hole there that has to fit onto the little pin that's in the middle of there. This little piggy tail, I don't know if you can see it or not, but we'll probably see if we do a close-up of it. There's a little tiny, an opening really, like a shape that it fits into just at the very top of that machine, in the housing in there. So that bit has got to fit in. So I tend to put it on across to the bobbin first, and then find my spot where it's going into. I might have to come around and have a look at this. Yeah, and then you hear the click, and it's clicked in. Okay, so that's ready. And this will have to come up to the top of the machine before we can sew, and you do that once we've done the needle. So now to thread in the needle. So again, you pop this on top of here, ignoring this one now because that's just your bobbin. Follow the numbers. So we're going to go follow 1, come down and round, follow number 2, up to number 3. Just turn that up to find the flick wheel. Then you're going to come round to 3. Then you're going to go down again, round to 4, which is around the top of that hook there, and then around the needle, it's at the head of the needle itself there, ready to thread. This machine has got a needle threader. You do have to put the needle in the highest position to make that work. So this flywheel we're going to turn towards us until the needle comes up as high as it can go. I think we've got it about high enough there. The needle threader is this little thing here. Okay. There's a wire at the back of that that will take this thread across. I'll show you how it works. Okay, so we're going to go underneath, take it down, bring it round, underneath, and then take it out. There we go. And there's your loop there. Just grab the loop at the back and pull it through, and that's it threaded. And then you can cut it off at the cutter here. It's a nice handy little cutter for your thread there. So now we've got our top thread threaded and the bobbin, but we have to get the bobbin up. So if we turn the wheel towards you to make a turn, it'll come down underneath the bobbin there. It'll catch the bobbin thread. It should do in a minute. And then, there we are. And then you just pull this one up to bring the thread up. And then you've got both threads up. You take it underneath the foot and back out behind the needle. And then it's ready to sew. So then we close the lid on the bobbin case. We can put the accessory tray back on, and then we're ready to sew the machine. So now we're ready to do some stitching on the Janome 423S. So put our fabric underneath. To do the stitching now, we're going to choose a stitch, which is our straight stitch, 2.5 stitch length for cotton weight fabric. We've put the cotton and the fabric under, and we've put the foot down, ready to sew. And then you put your pressure on your foot control to sew it. So, and it goes, there we are. Okay, and then the reverse button here, you press down and it will reverse to tie off your end. And you hold it down when you sew and it takes it back for you. Then you turn the wheel towards you till you get in the highest position. Lift up your presser foot, pull out your thread, and then use the cutter at the side to take off your threads. And that's your straight stitch done, and we've done the reverse at the bottom. Just going to turn this around here just so you can see where the little handy cutter is. So when you've got finished with uni threads, or you've got too many long here and you want to cut them off, you just catch it at the top, up the side of the machine, round, and cut it off like that, and it's that easy. Right, so we're now going to do the zigzag stitch. So you put your fabric underneath and make sure your threads are out at the back of the machine so they're not going to knot up. Put the lever down, ready to sew. Choose the stitch that you want, which is C. And you'll see that that C there is your zigzag. Then put a width on it, so you can choose whatever width you want going, so the stitch will go left to right. We'll show you how to do this. So I'll start with the small one first. So that's a narrow one, and then we can work out from there. So if I show you this first, it does a small little zigzag, and then if we push that over further, you'll get a wider one. Okay. If you want to, you can do the reverse at the end if you want to as well. Probably won't on this one actually, just so I can show you the difference. Then you turn your wheel towards you again, needle in the highest position, take this out and use that cutter again. And there's your zigzag there. So there's your small one that we did first, and then your larger one. Okay, we're going to show you how to change the feet, and we'll change to a buttonhole foot. So this is currently on an A foot. If I turn the machine around, you'll see a little lever here. Just press that there, and then the foot comes off. So they're quite easy to take off. Just make sure the needle's up as well out the way, and then they come off. We're going to put the button foot on now, and all the feet have this little bar across here, like the A foot did as well. And we've already pressed the button here to take that foot off. So we're going to put this one on. Now there's a fitment at the back that you could pull away. You just pull that completely away from the rest of the body of the actual buttonhole foot, and that's where you put your button. So we'll place our button just in there like that. Okay. And then you're going to use the clip at the front to clip the machine, the buttonhole foot onto. Now it won't go quite in there very easily, but if you, I'll come around this way, it might be easy to see. If you lift this lever up, it will raise the whole bar up so you can get underneath. That's quite handy as well for putting thicker fabrics under as well. And then you're going to align the bar with the little clip, and it clips it on like that. And it's already on. That thread, that's the bottom thread. This is your top thread here. Now your top thread's at the top at the minute. Now you can either hold this out, or you can do one stitch forward, almost like turn your flywheel towards you, round and back up, so that it's tucked the thread underneath, and then just get some fabric and just pull it through, and then that will bring you all the threads underneath, so it's going to flow through easy and sew the buttonhole nicely without getting tangled up. Okay, so then you go to put your button in, put the foot down. There's one more thing, or two more things we have to do now. There's a lever behind the needle threader. It's this one here that I'm bringing down now, and you bring it down to just go behind the clip at the back of the buttonhole. There's a little lever there. That's going to measure your buttonhole for you. Then you're going to choose the buttonhole here. So we're going to go around to pick that buttonhole symbol. And then you're going to find that buttonhole symbol there. Now a manual machine is just going to go round in a track. So it's going to go zigzag the first bit, go over across the top of the buttonhole, down the next side and round the bottom of the buttonhole. When it comes to the bottom of the buttonhole, you need to just be aware to check that it doesn't keep on sewing and sewing, because you'll just end up with a big knot. Okay, so let's just go through and show you how it works. So we start off first, and it's going to come backwards first. When this lever here hits the back of the other little notch at the back where you've measured it, it's going to say I'm going across now. Then I'm going to go forward. Okay. Right, and when it gets near to the end, this is the bit where you just need to just check where it's done the bit going across the bottom of the buttonhole. If you carry on sewing now, it'll keep pushing to try and just carry on doing that sort of bead across, and it's going to get thicker and thicker. So you just need to look and see, and then maybe just stop at that point, and probably, I think we are about there, and then do a reverse button to just finish the end off. Okay, then you can lift up the little buttonhole lever, lift up your presser foot and take it out, and there's your perfect buttonhole. Let's cut that off so you can see, and there's your buttonhole. That's it on the back. So it does quite a nice buttonhole for this machine actually, because some manual machines tend to do the beads are a little bit smaller on either side, and this is quite a good, it's an even speed on both sides, so it looks pretty good. All right. Now, when you want to do another one of those and you want to do them same size, you leave everything where it is here. But like we said, when you say that machine it goes backwards, around, across and down. So it goes backwards first, goes across, comes down and round again. As it's coming forward, if you went to sew another one, it would still be coming forward because it's on a track and it will just be on that one side. So to reset it so that it starts on its sort of like track again, you have to just press this little reset here, it clicks, and then it'll start again. So that's the buttonhole in a nutshell. This machine's quite handy as well because it's got measurements across here. So it's quite a handy little measurement, because when you're trying to work out something as you sew and you think, well, where's my tape measure? I need to measure whether it's an inch or half an inch and the piece of fabric that I'm putting in. It's quite clever because you can just put it up against this mark here. Now, if you're doing say example for a seam, you're doing a 1.5 centimetre seam, there's engraving marks here, and you'd find your 5/8 or your 1.5 centimetre seam, and you'd have your fabric against the edge of that engraving and you'd sew it through. But this measurements here, you can use, even though they're not exactly going to marry up with 1.5 centimetre seam, but it does marry up with one of these little notches. So that would keep your fabric in line as you're sewing. It's like a little measuring tool really, but it's quite useful if you wanted to keep your fabric straight and not just use this as a guide. You could follow it through to one of these little notches as well. The 423S Janome machine is aimed at beginners or intermediates. It's a metal body, it's quite heavy and strong, so it's useful for that. It's just when you're pressing at speed, it's not going to go running off the table. The drop feed is really handy because then you can do free motion with it, so that's an extra added bonus. And generally with the 24 stitches that you've got there, it's quite a good little machine. You've got lots of overedge stitches, you've got lots of neatening edge, you've got your straights, your zigzags, a few decoratives on there, so it's a good all-rounder, a strong machine, Comes with a hard cover as well, and you can carry it to classes and things like that as well. It's a fairly easy machine to use. I like the features of this here, that you've got you can get into here and you can put all of your bits inside while you're working. There's somewhere to keep your bobbins, which is quite nice. So, you know, you've got this little box which actually holds quite a lot when you come to it, put quite a lot in there, and then you can close that back up. So it's a nice, compact and easy to sort of store away as well. I like the idea of having the drop feeds instead of having a plate across the top for doing your free motion. Yeah, and it's a good, strong little machine. Some people prefer manual machines, and I'm used to computers, but I do find that with a manual machine, it depends if you're into sewing in buttonholes and things like that quite a lot, or you want to have a needle up, needle down position, or a speed control. Obviously the manual machines don't do that, so they do have that restriction. But having said that, it's a really good little machine, workhorse for somebody just starting out, or you want to do an intermediate where you want to take it to classes. It is a 7.4 kilogram weight. It's got the handle here to lift it. I'm reasonably strong enough to lift it. I mean, and it's not too heavy compared to some machines that you can get. So you can always, if you really did like this machine, you wanted to take it to classes anyway, you can always put it into a trolley bag with some wheels. So there's that option if you do. So within the range of all the manual machines that Janome have, I would probably rate this 423S maybe a 7, 1 being the worst and 10 being the best. It's the middle-y range of all the manual machines in their range. So yeah, it's a good, because it's got the metal body, it's got the drop feeds, you've got the needle threader, and a nice handy case, and you know, you can put it in some measuring tools for it as well. Yeah, it's quite a nice little machine. So that's the end of our review of the Janome 423S sewing machine. Thank you for watching. Please hit the like button if you liked the video, and leave a comment below. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel, and you'll also find us on Facebook, Instagram and Twitter if you'd like to see more of us. All the links are below. Thanks for watching.